Welcome back, everybody. The King and Pocket Aces Fantasy Sports Show, episode 3. I'm one of your hosts, Anthony Aniano, Pocket Aces, and joining me as he always does, the King of Fantasy Sports with his mini-me today, Mr. Scott Engel. Scott, how are you doing, my friend?
We are doing great. It's good to be back. Talk some fantasy football off season, some fantasy baseball rankings, some fantasy NBA. And, my mind's playing tricks on me lately. It's whatever you say, Bo Bichette, right? Say Bo Bichette.
Bo Bichette.
Right? Listen to me say it, Bo Bichette. Doesn't it sound like I'm almost saying a Star Wars character?
Yeah, Boba Fett. Yes.
Yeah, but Bo Bichette. Bo Bichette sounds like Boba Fett, right? It's not just me, right?
No, not at all.
Wow. Yeah, they should market that, right? You should put Bo Bichette in like a Boba Fett outfit. Make a poster, right?
Have a Star Wars day up in Toronto or Florida, wherever they're playing this year.
He has a nickname that's actually built in.
Bo Bichette. You could do something,
Bo Bichette, the baseball bounty hunter.
Yeah, like that new show on Disney Plus, The Mandalorian, which was absolutely fantastic. Boba Fett played a big role in that. So Boba Fett, the Jedi bounty hunter.
Maybe they should have Boba Fett in the next season of The Mandalorian.
That wouldn't be a bad idea.
Yeah.
The evil twin of Boba Fett.
Yeah, exactly.
There you go.
He's got a bat with him, yeah.
But anyway, everybody, thanks for tuning in.
I know some people are watching going,
here they go. We're getting out of that.
Will you just get on with the show? It's like,
and I love Star Wars. I can do a whole Star Wars podcast with you, but nonetheless.
Before you get started, it's like I get too crazy. I'm getting real geeked out. It's like I'm watching all these YouTubes about Darth Vader and his history and stuff like that.
Oh, I love that stuff, but that's a whole other conversation. I could
like what would happen if Anakin actually killed Ben Kenobi? I was watching that video the other night.
You went deep down the Star Wars rabbit hole, didn't you?
I did. Too much. It pulled me in. It was like I was all 11 years old again with my action figure Jawas.
There you go. With the Millennium Falcon.
I never had the Millennium Falcon.
Oh, I had the Millennium Falcon.
I had the Death Star.
Oh, all right. That's a good one. I didn't have that one, so that's a good one.
Yeah.
But anyway, guys, thanks for tuning in. King and Pocket Aces show. Guys, head over to rotoballer.com. Check out everything there. The main page, premium package, expert chats. Sign up for our Major League Baseball premium package, including the draft guide and all sorts of great content. Save some money on promo codes, King for Scotty or Aces for myself, and check out all of that. But before we get to the baseball
talk. It's not just baseball either.
No, and NASCAR, MMA, esports, you name it, we cover it at rotoballer.com. But, like we were talking about, fantasy baseball drafts are starting up. So maybe you need that draft guide to help guide you through it. So jump on that as well. But before we get to all the baseball talk, let's hit some football. And the last time we talked, Scott, in that time, we had the big trade in the NFL, and I've been waiting for tonight here to get your take on Carson Wentz heading over to the Indianapolis Colts. Now, we know Wentz was a disappointment. He lost the job to Jalen Hurts. But there are some things you just can't ignore, right? The 15 interceptions he threw were a career high, more than double what he had done the last couple of seasons when he had thrown 7 each of the last 2 years. But the other number I cannot ignore, Scott, he was sacked 50 times, a league-leading number, and he didn't even play the last, 3 games of the season. And now he's going to Indianapolis with a much better offensive line. There's no debate about that. So when you look at this trade, let's look at it from a Carson Wentz perspective first. How do you view his fantasy value, and is it a good move for the Indianapolis Colts?
Somebody I really respect is Jordan Palmer. He's become a quarterback guru in his post-playing career. And he came up with a great point when I saw an interview with him about how a lot of it is mental with Carson Palmer. Because
Carson Wentz.
Yes, thank you very much. I'm just testing you there. Carson Wentz, it was just mental because Nick Foles won the Super Bowl MVP, and then they drafted Jalen Hurts. It was no longer his team. You know, he lost the team in many intangible ways. Now he goes to a new team where back with Frank Reich, where they want to make him the man again. And this can only boost his confidence. The Eagles wanted to get rid of him so bad. They took a record-setting salary cap hit, you know, to get rid of him. But now he goes into a situation where he's obviously more wanted. The Colts look at him as a missing piece. So I think, you know, the talent's still there, but, you know, he'll get better protection. He'll get the support of a good running game. They will need to improve the playmakers around him. But this is a much improved situation. It's Carson Wentz now. It's either win or bust. You know, we've seen him get hit and injured, but the protection is going to be better in Indianapolis. Now, last week, Josh Hayes and I had Zach Kiefer of The Athletic, the beat reporter from the Indianapolis Colts for The Athletic, on, and he agreed with me. He said they need to get playmakers around Carson Wentz. They have the second most salary cap space, you know, as of this recording. They have a lot of salary cap space. Why bring back T.Y. Hilton just because he's been a Colt? He has no connection with Carson Wentz. This is a team that can make a play for Allen Robinson, Juju Smith-Schuster. You could say Galladay, but you have to think about style. You have Michael Pittman, who's a guy with leaping ability, yardage after the catch, acrobatic. You don't need two of those types in him and Galladay. Allen Robinson would be perfect for him. And Allen Robinson, you know, the New York Post is already with a report that Allen Robinson saying at this point of his career, he's already played for the Jaguars and the Bears. You want to play for a contender. Go to the Colts. It's perfect. You're a nice compliment. New piece for Carson Wentz. Everybody gets a new beginning. If not, you know, maybe Juju Smith-Schuster, somebody like that. You know, pick up a tight end because they used 3 different ones for over 50 catches last year. You know, put some playmakers around him. Carson Wentz become a winner. Now, fantasy-wise, he's not a mobile guy. We have to see who they put around him. So I'm reluctant right now to make him a top 12. Now, if you play in an FFPC Dynasty best ball league like I do, I'll look at trading for Carson Wentz because you need more than one quarterback. And I had Phillip Rivers, and he retired. In a Dynasty league, you know, it's kind of borderline. Maybe you want to take the chance, but I think when you offer a Dynasty league trade for Wentz right now, the other guy's going to be like, oh, he really wants Wentz. Let me drive up the price. Right. So I think fantasy-wise, we've got to play a little bit of wait and see.
You know, interesting number on Wentz last year. Sacked 1 out of every 10 pass attempts. Just a crazy, crazy number. Tough to have any sustained success. The rest of his career, it was about 5.5 to 6 attempts. So you saw the toll of getting hit constantly. Now, you mentioned, too, let's stick with this Colts offense. You know, salary cap cuts are going to be coming. I don't expect Zach Ertz to potentially be a Philadelphia Eagle again. The Zach Ertz.
You have the flip end of the salary cap with the Eagles at the other side, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Zach Ertz could end up being there. I agree with you. They need a wide receiver to go with Carson Wentz. We know the running game is there. But outside of the top 12, I agree with you. But there's a real chance with Carson Wentz, and you said it, if the confidence comes back, for a resurgent type of season on a significantly better offense with a significantly better offensive line. You know, is there any chance we come close to seeing what we saw back in year 2 when he was 25 years old and on his way to the MVP before he got hurt, where he threw 33 touchdowns to 7 interceptions? Can we see, like, is Carson Wentz, in your opinion, still a possibility?
Maybe that's the ceiling, but I think, you know, that's kind of throwing a big one out there. 30 touchdown passes, 14 interceptions. You know, I could see that if he turns it around. But we got to see how they build around him. Now, you talk about the Eagles. The Eagles, you know, in place for Hurts, they do have Fulgham. They need Ray Rieger to step up. They have the other tight end, Dallas Goedert. They have Miles Sanders. But this team is, okay, Are they rebuilding? Maybe they're not quite rebuilding, but they're retooling now. And, when people compare Jalen Hurts to Lamar Jackson, it seems that they already have better playmakers potentially around Jalen Hurts than they do Lamar Jackson. Yeah, he's had Marquise Brown, but Marquise Brown's better off as a number 2 wide receiver. He's got a better tight end, so but it's comparable, really. I think the playmakers around Jalen Hurts are a little bit better than for Lamar Jackson, but we still have to see over a full season, is this guy going to be a good passer? The rushing ability's there, but it's different. Everybody's hyped on him because they played late in the year, but it's different when you're starting from the first game of the year and teams and opponents, especially in your division, have studied film on you all year long.
Yeah, I think he averaged, it was about 62 rushing yards per game. And Scott, right after that trade, I saw it all over the wonderful world of Twitter, where Jalen Hurts was now a top 12 quarterback. But then in the same breath, you're reading that the Philadelphia Eagles are seriously considering drafting a quarterback at 6, which just tells you they don't believe Jalen Hurts is the guy, that if a Justin Fields is sitting there or a Trey Lance is sitting there at 6, that the Eagles can move on from Jalen Hurts as well and grab one of these kids at pick number 6 and have a quote-unquote competition in August for the quarterback position. So when you talk about Jalen Hurts, how concerned are you with these rumors of a quarterback at 6 and Jalen Hurts' dynasty value?
In a dynasty league, it's shaky. Seasonal, you just have to wait. Keeper, you have to wait. I understand people want to know now, but you got to be patient with this. But to me, it just wouldn't seem to make any sense. Why you drafted Jalen Hurts in the 2nd round for a reason last year. Why are you going to spend another top draft pick on the same position and then have them battle it out? You have a number 6 overall pick. That's significant, Bitcoin, if you want to, put it like that. You can get other playmakers up there. You can trade down for other pieces. Why draft a second player at the same position? It doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah, I agree 100% with you. It doesn't make sense. But again, I just don't think what the Eagles do sometimes makes full sense to me.
Unless you don't completely believe in Jalen Hurts at all.
Right. Well, you draft a quarterback at 6. You're saying Jalen Hurts is not our guy. I mean, right? Wouldn't you agree with that? If you're bringing somebody in at 6, you're moving on from. You think Jalen Hurts is a change of pace type of player, a career backup, which is essentially saying he's a wasted 2nd round pick.
You spent a 2nd round pick on him. That's significant draft capital right there.
Yeah, absolutely. So
hello.
Yeah, you don't waste a 2nd round pick. Is not a throwaway pick, and that's what you're essentially doing if you're the Philadelphia Eagles and you take another quarterback in round 1 of this April's draft. So everybody who is giddy over Jalen Hurts' fantasy value, don't get too giddy. You got to wait and see, like Scott said, wait and see what happens with April's draft and see where they are at and what they decide to do with that 1st round pick. A lot of ways they could go. They need playmakers. They need wide receivers. We know that. They could go that route. But, where there's smoke, there's fire, and there's a lot of talk of Philadelphia going with.
Yeah, there's a lot of talk that if they can't trade Zach Ertz, they might cut him.
Yeah, well, that's why I mentioned him. Zach Ertz could be a salary cap casualty and potentially reunite with Carson Wentz in Indianapolis, which would be.
Or he can get me another one of these.
Ooh, there it is. Scott rooting for his Seattle Seahawks, obviously, to come along and grab Zach Ertz. Well, Scott, it's funny you mentioned Zach Ertz because he was one of a group of players who struggled in 2020. He had injury issues, ineffectiveness. That whole Eagle offense was ineffective. And Jason Katz of rotoballer.com just really wrote a great article about players who potentially could rebound or not rebound coming back off a poor 2020. So the first player I wanted to mention to you or ask you about was Dak Prescott. Free agent potential to be. I don't think Dallas lets him walk. 9 passing touchdowns, 3 rushing touchdowns. Major surgery, right? That ankle injury was severe enough. Should be healthy, though, by August without any issues. How confident are you in Dak Prescott being your fantasy quarterback one going into next season?
Completely. You mentioned, last year, 5 games, 9 touchdown passes, 3 rushing touchdowns. Comes back healthy. This guy is an easy top 5 fantasy quarterback again. It's a matter of how they get it done with Dallas, like I was saying on our last show. Do they franchise him? Do they get something done here? It's the way it is in the NFL. You have to pay big money to not have a worry at quarterback. I see fans complaining about it all the time. Oh, the quarterback makes too much money. You know why? Because there ain't that many franchise quarterbacks out there.
Yeah, I agree. I'm not too concerned. Give him a full season now with CeeDee Lamb there as well. That offense could actually be more explosive than it has been in recent years for Dak Prescott. I don't think we've seen the best of CeeDee Lamb, obviously. Year 2 with a full season of Dak, that's an exciting pairing. Scott, Julio Jones. People are ready to write off Julio Jones as finished, washed up, done. I don't buy into it. 31 years old, played 9 games. It probably should have been about 6 games. He kept trying to play with that hamstring injury and coming in and out of lineups. All right? Be mindful that from 2014 to 2019, he never played less than 14 games. He was a floor 1,400 receiving yard a season guy. I mean, that's just how good he was with over 85 receptions almost every year. Last season, limited, still averaged 15.1 yards per reception. Are we writing Julio Jones obituary, or do we expect him to go back to being that Julio Jones 1,300 yards in his sleep type of wide receiver?
By the way, Julio Jones is very upset at you.
What'd I do?
Because you said he was 31. You missed his birthday in early February. He's 32 now.
Oh, he just turned 32, so there you go.
Yeah. You missed his birthday, Julio told me.
I did. I didn't send it. I gotta, you know what? I'll get him a cameo of me saying happy birthday.
Yeah, you can get one of those cards, that they do now where you can pay to have celebrities.
Yeah, the cameo. It's called Cameo.
Cameo, yeah.
I'm gonna send him one of me. So there you go.
Send him a cameo. I'll pay for it.
You'll pay for it. It's $250 plus that.
Yeah, more than $50. Wow.
$2.50.
Oh, okay. Julio Jones. Look, Mike Tagliaferri does very good studies every year on what is the old age for a player at a certain position. A lot of fantasy players will just think 30 is old for everybody. It's not true. That's old for a running back. 32 is the final year, according to those studies that he's done, that a wide receiver is really overall still capable of producing at a very high level. The drop-off tends to come at age 33. So Julio got hurt last year. People were taking count of his age. He drops towards the end of the 3rd round, early 4th. I'll take him. Just the one thing with Julio, even in his prime, he's not going to score a ton of touchdowns. We know Calvin Ridley, he's the touchdown maker over there.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Julio Jones has had double-digit touchdowns once in his career. It was his 2nd year back in 2012. He had 10. Has never had 10 or more receiving.
Ryan just doesn't throw the jump ball. He doesn't throw the 50.
He doesn't throw. Calvin Ridley, you're right, is the touchdown guy. But, Scott, if I said to you I'm drafting Julio Jones round 4 and I expect 80 catches and 1,250 yards, you in on that number?
Sign me up.
I agree. Sign me up. I'm not writing his obituary just yet from Football Relevance. I still think there's more there. Now, another wide receiver, Odell Beckham, 13.9 yards per catch coming off the ACL. And listen, Cleveland went on a great run once Odell was out. You can argue their offense played better without him. So Odell Beckham, Cleveland, wherever he ends up, people are going to stay away from him come fantasy draft day.
If I could still get him as a number 2 fantasy wide receiver, I still think there's upside. Obviously got hurt. His yards per catch was right near what it was the year before. He probably would have stayed healthy, probably would have ended up about the same numbers. But if he comes back, it was clear that's the element that Cleveland was missing in his passing game, a really fearsome playmaker in the passing game. And I think he wants to be part of that success. I think they need him. So I'd be pretty confident in taking him as a mid-range wide receiver, too, with some upside. If he goes somewhere else, maybe a change of scenery even boost him to more upside. If he went to Tampa Bay, that might be ridiculous. But then again, maybe that happens if they don't retain Chris Godwin because but I think they will retain Godwin.
Yeah.
Do they want to have Godwin, Evans, and Beckham? That would just be
too much.
Sick. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if there's enough footballs, though, to keep all three of them happy. One more player.
Tom Brady, he could probably recruit him to be the fourth receiver.
Yeah, that's true. One more player to ask you about before we head to halftime. Ezekiel Elliott of the Dallas Cowboys, Scott. Does he rebound to first-round fantasy draft status?
With Dak Prescott back, I think he does.
Oh, okay.
We've seen Prescott without Elliott before, and he struggled. And then we saw Elliott without Prescott, and the offense really struggled last year. Zeke Elliott's not old by any means, and the whole offense suffered really without a good quarterback. And, that's why you pay the quarterback money.
That's it. That's why you pay
it. He elevates the play of everybody around him in many different ways. Without Dak Prescott, that offense just isn't the same. He'll be back. I see a rebound for Ezekiel Elliott at least to back end of the first round.
More faith in him or Saquon Barkley next year?
Saquon is just about staying healthy. He can return to his rookie numbers. So I have more faith in Elliott to return to his past form because I'm not worried about his durability. But if Saquon stays healthy, he'll put up better numbers than Elliott.
Yeah, the injury concern now, 2 of the last 3 seasons for Saquon. Definitely becoming.
My knee just hurts talking about it.
Guys, like I said at the start, head over to rotoballer.com. NASCAR, MMA, esports, PGA, baseball, football, basketball, whatever you're looking for, rotoballer.com has you covered. DFS or season-long formats. Sign up for a premium package with the promo code KING, telling them Scott sent you, or the promo code ACES, telling them Anthony sent you. We got to get little Scott there, a promo code as well, I think. All right, guys, it's halftime. When we come back, we'll start talking some baseball, preview some of the positions. We'll look at some recent transactions and all sorts of fantasy baseball and basketball stuff going on around the league. So stay right here. This is the King and Pocket Aces. Welcome back, everybody, to the second half of the King and Pocket Aces show. Anthony Aniano, Scott Engel, as you know. Follow Scott and Little Scott as well, sitting over his shoulder. Follow Scott on Twitter at Scott E. the King. And follow me on Twitter at Aniano Fantasy. And hit us up. If there's anything you want us to talk about on any of these shows, hit us up on Twitter, and we'll happily cover it on next week's episode. So, Scott, pitchers and catchers are in town. Teams are reporting. It's time to start breaking down some rankings here for fantasy baseball, courtesy of rotoballer.com. Don't forget, sign up for that MLB package, including their rankings, and use either of our promo codes. So, Scott, let's talk about these first base rankings. And the first player I want to talk to you about, because it's a team near and dear to our heart, that's Pete Alonso of the New York Mets. Rotoballer.com has him currently as first baseman 5, overall ranked sitting at 51. Now, last season, a little bit of a disappointment. He had to get hot down the stretch just to get his batting average up to 231. All right, 16 home runs, no surprise there. He can hit 30 home runs, I think, in his sleep. But what is your take on Pete Alonso? Was that rookie year really the best we're going to see out of him? How do you view Pete Alonso heading into this draft season?
I don't think necessarily illusion what we saw. We saw enough home runs last year to see that he could hit 40, over a full season. We're not expecting 50, but, there were concerns. The barrel percentage dropped from top 3 in the league to 12.8. The batting average was low, and the XBA wasn't much better at 227. The xWOBA dropped from 379 to 322. But you have to remember, I hear a lot of fantasy analysts talking about this third of a season, you have to give some guys a pass and maybe look at, the last two seasons as, one big season that you analyze, okay, there was an extra third and you kind of, work that out statistically. Don't look at last season as one season, kind of average it out with the year before. And then maybe you might get what you can expect from it. Because it might have just been a bad 3 months last year in terms of a batting average. But even heading into last year, I felt that Pete Alonso was a little bit overrated fantasy-wise. Maybe even more explosive in real life. Because, okay, you get 40 homers. It's not easy to get, but you're going to take a hit in batting average, it looks like. And you can go a few picks later, a few rounds later, still get a lot of power and still get, a good amount of pop.
Well, it's, you said something interesting. You're like, is it a bad month or 2 months last season? When you look at his season month by month last year, in July, he hit 200 with 1 home run. Okay. In August, he only hit 5 home runs and hit 217. September and into October, he had 10 of his 16 home runs and hit 256 in the month of September and October. So he got hot at the end. And then, in that shortened period, you wonder how much of that would have continued. I would take, listen, he's going to find 40 mistakes and hit 40 home runs. I'm not worried about him hitting 40. I think 100 RBIs are where he's at. And whether you look at Derek Carty or Ariel or Steamer projections, they all have him at 40 and 100. The question for me with Pete Alonso, Scott, becomes that batting average. Can he approach that 260? If he gives you 255, 260 again, I think you sign up for that with the elite power numbers. You just got to be careful he doesn't turn into a Joey Gallo type of player and hit 220 for you and be a drag on the batting average. Oh, the hand is up.
Gallo, we'll start talking about 200 there.
Yeah, well.
You make some good points by breaking the numbers down by month because it was a very unusual season. You have a spring training, then it starts and stops, and it wasn't a normal season. It wasn't easy to get in the rhythm last year. And you may have sort of real Pete Alonso. Still, though, do I want to spend a third, maybe fourth-round pick for 255 and 40? I don't know if I want to do that when I can wait a little bit later and get some of the other guys we're talking about.
So when you talk about some of the other guys, and if you want a little bit later, there's Luke Voit, who's actually ranked now kind of right exactly behind Pete Alonso. He's 3 picks later in overall rank at 54. His rank, first base rank is 6. 277 with 22 home runs. But, my thing is this, too. If you're going to be dismissive, if you're going to overanalyze the short season for a guy who struggles, do we overanalyze the short season for a guy like Luke Voit, who just came out last season scorching hot and never cooled off? This is a guy who in 2019 in 118 games hit 21 home runs and hit 263. Last season in 56 games, he hits 22 home runs, almost matches his RBI total in about 62 less games. Walked less, struck out less, so I guess that's the good news. But the batting average, everything was there. Was Luke Voit a product of a shortened season and, didn't go through any type of struggle or slump last year?
Yeah, it was. I mean, you project his stats over a full season, he's hitting almost 60 home runs.
Yep.
He's not Roger Maris, but he did show a lot of promise in 2019, so you kind of meet somewhere in the middle, and this is a guy that could hit, 270 with 35 home runs easy. And ADP-wise, Alonso's at 56, and Voit is at 60. I probably, from a fantasy perspective, not real life, of course, I'd rather have a Voit. The XBA last year was 264. He was among the league leaders in X-slugging and X-WOBA, and his 13.1% barrel rate was not far off from the previous year when it was one of the best barrel rates in the year. So I think, and some very smart guys on Sirius XM Fantasy Sports Radio, like on Colton and the Wolfman, actually said, Yeah, Colton the Wolfman, I believe, that said, that you don't look at the statistics always from last season. You look at the skills. And I think over the last year and a half, or the last year and a third, I think he's proved he's got the skills that he could hit for a better average with Alonso and, maybe 5-7 less home runs. I'd rather take the higher batting average.
Yeah, it comes down to that batting average there with Luke Voit. I agree with you. I think Alonso ends the season this upcoming year with more home runs potentially. But you're talking about potentially a 250 hitter to a 275 hitter between Alonso and Luke Voit. That makes things interesting. Now, Paul Goldschmidt is currently the 9th-ranked first baseman on Rotoballer.com's rankings, Scott. 86th overall. And people want to say last year was a bit of a down year. Weighted on base average of 391, batting average of 304. Now, power was down. He only hit 6 home runs in that 191 at-bats, 21 home runs. But Paul Goldschmidt, I feel like, wasn't too long ago, he was the premier at that position, and he's sliding down. But St. Louis has given him some reinforcements in the lineup with Nolan Arenado. I'm perfectly content doing what you said, bypassing Pete Alonso, even bypassing Luke Voit, and 30 picks later, walking away with Paul Goldschmidt.
Yeah, you know what you get from Paul Goldschmidt. And that's both as an interviewer and a fantasy player. I respect Paul Goldschmidt when I have media credentials because he will interview everybody that asks him and give them quality time, no matter what outlet they're with, and I respect that. And I also respect Paul Goldschmidt as a player and realize that even though he's a few years over 30 and there's no upside and that's why he drops, that just before last year he was hitting 30 home runs a year.
Yeah.
Again, look at last 3 months. I think we give him a little bit of a pass, the 3 months from last year. If you play with OBP or you're basing your draft strategies off of that, still a 417 OBP last year. He was top 6 in xWOBA. Minor concern is the exit velocity has been dropping a little bit each over the last 3 years, coming with age, but still a very good fantasy first baseman.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, last season, it was the power numbers. It was the 6 home runs, a 304 batting average, a 417 on-base percentage, walked 16% of the time, and struck out 18.6. Scott, I say it all the time. When your walk rate and your strikeout rate are essentially equal, sign me up for that player each and every year. I love it. I don't want to see that 4% walk and that 30% strikeout. That's a wasted batter, in my opinion. Okay, but here's a guy who is 90 RBIs, 25 to 30 home runs in his sleep with a better batting average than either of the other first basemen we have mentioned. Paul Goldschmidt, where he is going, like we said, overall rank on Rotoballer is first baseman 9. Overall rank, like we said, is at first base, and overall rank at player 86. Now, talk about a player who's dropping, and that's Anthony Rizzo of the Chicago Cubs. Scott, Rotoballer does not even have him ranked as a top 12 first baseman, okay? When you include players like DJ LeMahieu and Alec Boehm, who are first base eligibility, Dom Smith is first baseman 11 in the Rotoballer rankings. Now, I love Dom Smith. You love Dom Smith. We love our Mets. But Dom Smith at 11, Anthony Rizzo at 13. He hit 222 over that shortened season last year. But a lot of disrespect, in my opinion, to Anthony Rizzo there.
Seems like disrespect, but, Smith has the upside. Rizzo's coming off a terrible year. But we should expect a correction in the batting average when you look at the fact that the XBA was 266. There was a career high. It was the highest in a few years. Strikeout rate of 15.6. The exit velocity dropped to 87.7, but the power was still there. He would have hit 30 home runs over a full year. So I think, he can rebound based on what the XBA was last year. You could still be looking at 260 and 30 homers.
Keep in mind this with Rizzo, too. He's a lifetime 271 hitter with a batting average on balls in play of 286. Just 2 seasons ago in 2019, he had 293 with a 405 on base percentage and a 306 batting average on balls in play. Anthony Rizzo hit into some bad luck last season as well, Scott. His BABIP was at 218, a complete outlier from where he's been his entire career. That 218 BABIP leads to an outlier of a batting average of 222. Okay, offensive players like Anthony Rizzo, and I keep it simple with the phrase back of the baseball card. He's not 38, 39, 40 years old. He's 31. Okay, they trend back to the norm, and that's what you have to expect for Rizzo. He's a 271 lifetime hitter, 286 career BABIP. And if you said to me, Anthony, is what we got out of Rizzo batting average-wise the norm, what we should expect? No, absolutely not. Scott, I think you'd agree with me. 270 with 25 to 30 home runs, that's the norm for Anthony Rizzo. And what I would fully expect this year is never struck out more than 16% or 19% in a season. He always walks in a double-figure percentage. Everything about him is exceptional. Last season was a tough 58 games. That's all it was, Scott.
Yeah, and you go back of the baseball card. I don't know if is that going to go out of style, Anthony? I know people have been buying baseball cards, during the pandemic.
Baseball cards never go out of style.
But now this NBA Top Shot thing is really taking off with the digital sort of collecting. And you might have to look at the back of the digital card very soon because, if you've been hearing about this Top Shot thing, it's an advantage over the sports card, and you don't have to worry about the condition necessarily.
It's interesting, but I'll still take my albums and albums of baseball cards, my friend, from my childhood.
The times.
No, I'll continue
to buy some NBA Top Shot cards.
I'll continue to live in the past. Those were my glory days. Josh Bell. I'll make you a mixtape. Yeah. Josh Bell of now the Washington Nationals. Listen, Josh Bell was my first baseman last year in tout, draft, and hold, and it was a complete disaster for me with Josh Bell. Pittsburgh moved on in their never-ending rebuild. He's now on a better team and a better spot with the Washington Nationals. But listen, Josh Bell is ranked below Anthony Rizzo. He's first baseman 14. Overall rank of 109. He, again, like Rizzo, hit 226 last season, 8 homers, only a 287 weighted on base average. Josh Bell doesn't have the track record of an Anthony Rizzo. So who is Josh Bell heading into this season?
I think it was a bad 3 months, too. And now in Pittsburgh, my friend Todd Frazier might be playing some first base there. Good luck, Todd.
There you go.
With Josh Bell last year, you mentioned only 8 home runs that would translate to about 25 over a full year. You weren't getting the on-base percentage, 305. The XBA was only 229. So, reflection of batting average, the K rate was 28.9. His launch
his strikeout rate's never been over 20% in his career.
Yeah, that was outrageous. The launch angle dropped to 5.9. He had no protection in that lineup. Getting out of there, and he's probably going to hit cleanup in Washington. I like him at a nice rebound at a 156 ADP.
Does he come close to those 2019 numbers in Pittsburgh? I mean, those were all-world numbers, 37, 116 RBIs, 277 batting average. I mean, I think if he gave you 25 and 90 and 277, you'd be thrilled with those numbers.
You might like having him over Rhys Hoskins, say, this year, because they could probably hit the same amount of the homers and it'll give you a better batting average.
Yeah, I agree with that. Hoskins, first baseman, 19, and not a fan of Hoskins. Just strikes out too much. Batting average is perennially low, although the power always plays. Now, right in front of Hoskins is second-year player for the Baltimore Orioles, 18th ranked first baseman, Ryan Mountcastle.
That's a great name, isn't it?
It's fantastic. Game of Thrones.
Renaissance Fair or something.
Yeah. Now, I have him for like $3 in an Otnu on Fangraphs. Love him there. Outfield eligible, move around, a couple of different spots. And he was terrific last year when he got called up. Became a must-play for me down the stretch of the season. He had 333, Scott, with 5 homers, 23 RBIs, but he is tied to the Baltimore Orioles, which is not good for anybody in terms of run production. What are your take on Mountcastle? Is he a corner infielder more than a first baseman this year and somebody you could play day in and day out?
We'll have to wait and see where that eligibility goes, but he's the number 5 prospect in the Orioles system. I can't find it hard to believe there'd be 4 better than him. But you're not going to see that kind of batting average. You look at his minor league numbers in the XBA of 268 last year. But, this is a guy for, maybe you want him over Rhys Hoskins again because he can hit 270 with 30 homers. He's a top prospect. He's not in a great lineup, but they're going to give him opportunities to play. Maybe he doesn't hit 268 because he's not going to have a lot of protection. Maybe it's more like 255, floor of 27, ceiling of 32.
2019 at AAA for Baltimore, he did hit 312, 25 homers, 83 RBIs at the AAA level. His strikeout rate remained consistent from AAA in 2019 to the major leagues last year, and he actually improved his walk rate from 2019 at AAA to the major leagues. So those are trends I do like. The question for me becomes the batting average on balls in play was completely inflated last year, Scott. He had 398 batting average in balls in play. So, yeah, I agree that 333 is going to be tough. But if he turns into a 285 hitter with some pop, I would love him first base, outfield eligible as a corner infielder. Let me ask you this. Ryan Mountcastle or Miguel Sano? Who do you want?
I want Ryan Mountcastle. I can't take Miguel Sano. It gives me a heart attack.
Yep, too many strikeouts. Not my type of player. Ryan Mountcastle, or the next person we're going to mention, Jared Walsh, second-year player for the Angels, who came on 293, 9 home runs last year, had a nice season. Problem with Walsh, though, Scott, Albert Pujols, Shohei Ohtani still hanging around, stealing at-bats at first base or DH.
I feel like they got to get the kids bat in the lineup. The ADP is 46 spots in the NFC, lower than Mountcastle, but he's so intriguing. 36 homers at AAA 2 years ago. And then last year an XBA of 268. If they let him play full time, he could hit 270 with 30-plus homers and probably outproduce Mountcastle. But there's some questions about his track record. He didn't even come up as a hitter. How polished is he? Is he polished enough that he can repeat what he did last year? He's got less of a prospect pedigree than, say, Ryan Mountcastle. So while he's very intriguing, I think the ADP makes sense.
Yeah, but where he's going in NFBCs, I love his intrigue there. He's going after guys like
the 19th round in a month.
Yeah, it's a no-brainer. And again, I'll take the upside of Walsh over Rhys Hoskins, Scott. We brought his name up a lot, and it sounds like he's almost becoming a player you and I are not really interested in drafting this year.
I did take him in one mock because I felt I didn't have enough power by the point I got to his 167 ADP. The barrel percentage last year, 14.8. You play in an OBP league, you like him better because 384 OBP last year. XBA of just 238, though. It really depends on what type of format you play in.
See, that I'll jump on board with you. In a on-base percentage league, a career 366 on-base percentage compared to the 239 batting average. Walks 15% of the time for his career. Strikeouts about 23%. Yep, one of the best. 30 home runs, an excellent walk rate. The question is, in an OBP league, I'm comfortable if you tell me he's your everyday first baseman. If it's a batting average league, though, makes it a little bit more difficult to deal with, Scott. Absolutely. Any other first baseman you love? An Eric Hosmer, Christian Walker, anybody else out there at the first base position before we move on to some recent transactions?
Christian Walker is a nice play for some late power. You want to get some late value. Pacers Aguilar can serve you pretty well. Hit 275 with 27 homers possibly. I think he's underrated. The Ohio Vladimir Guerrero, this should be the year.
Should be.
And, heard a lot of good things about how he's gotten himself in tune physically. So if you're playing an NFBC league, a high stakes or something like that, you do want to take the crack.
I like Candelario of Detroit, where he's going around 2021.
Yeah, he's going nicely last year.
Yeah, hit 290, shows a little bit of pop, a nice value play. Again, a corner infield type of player. Scott, a couple of free agent signings since we last talked. Just get your thoughts on them real quick. Brett Gardner re-ups with the New York Yankees. Are we concerned about him taking at-bats from Clint Frazier, or do we feel still secure with Frazier being the primary, I don't want to say every day, but primary option in the Yankee outfield, in left field?
I think so, because I'm good friends with a guy who covers the Yankees pretty closely, and he said all Frazier needed was regular playing time. It's a mental thing for him. He's got to get in the rhythm. He's got to know he's playing often, and the Yankees are going to give that to him. But they have to have Gardner, because if Frazier fails, to me, is a less concern. Can Aaron Hicks and Aaron Judge stay healthy?
Yep.
So they got to keep Frazier around, the last remaining member of that 2009 championship team on the roster. Plays all the time, only 240 with 15 homers and 10 steals, nothing exciting.
Yeah, no, he's an only type of pick at this point in his career, an AL only type of pick as best. Taijuan Walker signs with our New York Mets. Pitched to a nice ERA, elbow getting healthy, slots in right now to be the fourth starter on this Mets team. Is there a late-round value in Taijuan Walker pitching for the Mets this year?
There's no upside, I don't think. The last time we saw him pitch over a full season was 2017. He had a 3.49 ERA and a 4.34 xFIP, 8.35 Ks per nine. Last year, 8.5 K per nine, 270 ERA, but 482 xFIP.
Yep.
To me, he's more of an NL only 15-team league pick.
Yep, I agree. He's an NL only guy.
That's what major league teams are doing now. They're building a ton of starting pitching depth.
That's what the Mets have done. When you look at him, Lucchesi, Peterson, Yamamoto,
outside of guys like DeGrom, they're really not going to stretch a lot of guys out.
Yep.
There's going to be openers.
If you plan on contending, you need to go 7 deep at the starting rotation nowadays. I mean, that's just the way it is in order to survive. One last signing in Major League Baseball, and we'll slide over to the NBA. Oakland A's signed Trevor Rosenthal. Is he a source of saves this year for your fantasy team?
Yeah, I mean, he had a 190 ERA last year, but he had an incredible 82.4% strand rate. So I think he pitches more to his 283 xFIP, but you're looking at 25 to 30 saves easy.
Yeah, he should be that guy for Oakland as they continue to turn that roster over. All right, Scott, a couple of minutes left. Let's hit that NBA waiver wire. You are red hot in the FSGA NBA League, on a roll. I attribute it all to this show. Okay? It's me.
Yeah.
All right. First name I want to.
You are a gym rat. You just hang around the NBA gym.
When I played basketball as a kid, I went 3-point arc to 3-point arc, and I never went inside of it. Defensively and offensively, that's where I stayed.
Hey.
And I'm just chucking from John Starks. When you're on, shoot. When you're off, shoot until you're on. All right.
I was like that too. It was like John Starks. It was like I'd hit 10 in a row and I'd miss 10 in a row.
That was it. When you're hot, you're hot. When you're off, it doesn't matter. You're going to keep shooting anyway. Robert Williams, 27% rostered, 20 rebounds and 8 blocks his last 2 games at the time of this taping. What is your take on Mr. Robert Williams?
Wow, we're going back in time, too. We're taping this? Are we doing this on a video cassette?
There you go. Recording.
Yeah, but Robert Williams, as center is so hard to come by. And these aren't necessarily just waiver wire picks, because sometimes when you see this, your waiver wire may have ran already. If you play in a weekly league, somebody you can trade for on a low level, daily moves, pick him up right away or keep him in mind for the next period. But he's it's very hard right now. You're losing guys like Mitchell Robinson, Yusef Nurkic, even some guys are on the borderline, like Kelly Olynyk. They're just not serving you well. Robert Williams is making the most of all of his minutes. Like we said, 20 rebounds and 8 blocks in his last 2 games. He's not going to give you a ton in the way of points, but he will give you some rebounds. He will give you some defense.
Naz Reid, 27% rostered. Double figures, 3 of his last 4 games, 8+ rebounds, 2 of his last 3. Kid's playing well of late, Scott, and he's floating around on some waiver wires.
Yeah, he is. Somebody that I had to pick up because of the center issues. The Timberwolves just fired their coach, just after the one less than 10 games. Karl Anthony Towns has come back from that long COVID stretch, but Naz Reid is still doing work off the bench. 10 points and 8 rebounds in his last game. He will give you some defense. You have to set your sights lower at center. It's almost like catcher in baseball, fantasy baseball, and Naz Reid can be serviceable.
Yeah, definitely can in rebound categories, things such as that. Dorian Finney-Smith, 11 3-pointers in his last 3 games, 21% rostered.
Yeah, Finney-Smith played well in the bubble last year during the playoffs, and when he's going good, he can give you those threes. He's a nice complement to Doncic and Porzingis, shooting from the outside. He can get hot for certain stretches, and, in a deeper league, he can help you out.
Derrick Jones Jr., 37 points, 23 rebounds in his last 3 games, 20% rostered, Scott.
Yeah, some of these Trailblazers guys with the injuries or coming back from injuries, they're stepping up here. Derrick Jones Jr. is somebody who's a nice streamer and can really supplement your core guys very well with the way that he's been playing lately, double-figure points, some rebounds, might even, contribute in the other categories. We need to see the consistency, but he's capable of contributing across a few categories.
Last player on the list, Teo Melodone, if I pronounced it right, 14% rostered, 14 points, 2 of his last 3 games, shoots a nice 3-pointer, Scott. He's the lowest rostered player on the list today. Your take?
Yeah, only 10% owned in Yahoo leagues, and that number should go up. His team is getting some players back. He's one of them. And it's not easy to find guys that can boost you into the threes, and Teo Meldon is one of them.
There you go. All right, everybody, we are just about out of time. Guys, we remind you again, rotoballer.com, baseball, football, basketball, MMA, esports, Scotty's NASCAR work, Scotty and Sean Engel doing the NASCAR work. Great stuff there as well. PGA, DFS, season long, whatever you're looking for. Get that MLB package now using the promotional code KING, using the promotional code ACES. Tell them Scott or I sent you and save yourself a little bit of money. Follow me on Twitter at Aniano Fantasy. Follow Scott at Scott E. the King and hit us up there. Scotty, this is a great show as always, my friend.
Always a lot of fun. And again, check us out for NASCAR this week on rotoballer.com. And we're going to Homestead this week. It's the beginning of the season, not end of the season. Enter King at checkout on the Rotoballer Season Pass for NASCAR.
There you go. All right, everybody. This has been fun. We'll see you next week. Stay smart, stay safe, and we'll see you next time. The King and Pocket Aces Fantasy Sports Show, rotoballer.com.